And normally we don't start with a prayer, but I thought in this case, if we could all remember Nellie Sheehan passed away Sunday. And so I'll ask everybody to bow their head and just lift up, Father God, lift up Nellie to you, Lord, and we pray that she's with you in your presence and safe and at peace and at rest with other family members, Lord. And we pray healing to her family, her kids, her grandkids, and great-grandkids. She was a wonderful servant here on earth, Lord, and she's a treasured sister, and we hope you take good care of her. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, open with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Mr. Rouse, are you ready?
Are we recording?
I think we are recording. Are we recording now? Okay. All right. Okay. Hey, you got to get here early, girlfriend. This is a hot seat.
Sorry.
All right, let's do roll call.
I forgot my sheets downstairs, so I'm going to wing it here. Bonnie Donaldson.
Here.
Dan Booker. Here. Danny Loesch.
Absent.
Eric Whittington. Sue Mayberry.
Here.
Scott Traub. Here.
Motion to excuse Danny Loesch.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Dan Booker Jr., seconded by Bonnie
I know.
Bonnie Donaldson.
I'm changing my name.
Don't do that. Seconded by Bonnie. Any discussion? Roll call.
Oh.
I'm getting it. I'm getting it. Go get him.
Bonnie.
You gotta say this real quick.
Roll call, Bonnie.
Here.
No.
Yes.
Dan.
Whatever.
Scott. Yeah. Sue.
Yes.
Dan. Yes. Eric. Yes.
All righty. All right, Stark County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Yes,
Okay, are you Lisa?
I am. I am not Bill Green.
Okay, I didn't think you were. That was a pretty safe guess.
Thank you very much. Mayor, President of Council, and council members, as you said, my name is Lisa Paramore, and I am your neighbor down the street. My family has lived in the area since 1993. We've been patrons of your community. And to steal a phrase from my friend, I live in the sweet spot. I have a Canal Fulton phone number, I have a Clinton mailing address, and I live in Jackson Township. Yes. So it is an honor to be able to speak to you this evening. I am the communications manager for the Stark County Board of Developmental Disabilities. I have been there for about 10 years, and I'm also the parent of a child with developmental disabilities who's here with me this evening. So as I said, it's an honor to be able to speak to you this evening. March is National Developmental Disability Awareness Month, and I wanted to come share with you the work that the Stark County Board of Developmental Disabilities is doing on behalf of more than 3,900 people that we support in Stark County and the 129 people we serve who live in Canal Fulton. The Stark County Board of Developmental Disabilities mission is to support people with disabilities and their families. Our vision is that each person will be fully included in our community. However, there are still attitudinal barriers that people with disabilities sometimes face. So in March, we're out, we're talking to you, we're talking to other city council members, and telling you about the things that the Stark County Board of Developmental Disability does to bring inclusion to our communities. Each year, we are working with 700 families that have an infant with a disability. 700. The work takes place in the family home, in the workplace, at daycares, wherever that family lives. Each year we provide preschool and school-age educational services to 180 students with intense and complex needs. Each year we fund services that support over 1,600 people so that they can live, work, play, and pray in our communities. We are a funder of services. We are a planner and a coordinator of each person's life plan. We work with 115 private agencies and 200 independent providers and monitor them to ensure that people with disabilities are safe and healthy. Finally, we work in conjunction with the Sheriff's Office and the Canal Fulton Police Department to investigate all allegations of abuse and neglect to make sure that people with developmental disabilities are healthy and safe. So during this month, we want you to know our name, and we want you, when you run into somebody in your community, a family, a child that could use our help, to please refer them to us. We also want you to know that Stark DD is a trusted partner of thousands of local families in our community. Stark DD provides vital services and high-quality support to a steadily number of increasing people with developmental disabilities. We are serving 30% more people than we did 10 years ago. So ultimately, we want each person with a developmental disability to have a good life. And we are working with Canal Fulton and the rest of our communities to ensure that we can make this happen. Thank you for your time tonight, and I appreciate your attention. And again, a reminder, March is Developmental Disability Awareness Month. Thank you very much.
And I have to say that you're on Wales Road. My buddy Adam's on the billboard representing
It's a star.
Should have had Adam
Yeah.
leading the pledge today.
Yeah, he's
All right.
my buddy. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Lisa?
Anything I can answer to you about our services?
And we have a commission on disabilities here
I
in Canal Fulton.
understand that, yep, I understand that.
Yeah.
Having been in this community for a long time, I know that you support Echoing Ridge and have a great community here of support and inclusion, so I've always appreciated that.
Keep working on those sidewalks.
I know, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to citizens' comments for agenda items.
I think you
Oh, I'm
said
sorry,
standing.
standing committees, there we go. Report of standing committees. We didn't have any meetings, so, all right. Let's see, moving down to citizens' comments. And any comments for agenda items? Seeing none, we're moving on to correcting and adopting the record of proceedings.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the record of proceedings of the March 5th Public Service Committee meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sue Mayberry, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Roll call?
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Okay. Council minutes?
And I'll make another motion to approve of the March 5th City Council meeting minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Sue Mayberry, seconded by Scott Schwab. Any discussion?
Again, another job of 2 meetings, well transcribed in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's nice having the committee meeting minutes to approve right afterwards, so. Great job by Alyssa. All right, any other discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Okay, senior citizens, we did get a much better price from Grant Joyce
Oh, did you?
on the door.
How
So,
much better?
like $1,500 better. Yeah, so I'm hoping we're getting the same door, but we should be okay. And that did lead us to that and the some of the work to be done on the community park, where we started to get some trees cut down. One of the things that we found is that sometimes we weren't getting, especially on smaller jobs, we weren't getting certificates of workman's comp and disability, what else would they pay? Social Security? Insurance, thanks, Tom. Liability insurance, thank you. And that, Sue, that goes back to when you questioned me about, when we were moving the dirt back in the fall on the community park for them to make sure that we got those things from
Oh,
Chapinar. So we just
Okay.
continued that into just something as small as getting the trees cut down, for $7,000. We're making sure that we
Well, they're
have,
on your property.
yep, exactly.
Whatever.
Yep, so,
Right?
all righty. And moving on to community service. No report. And fire chief?
Thank you, Mayor. And Just today, we commissioned Engine 5 to service, and we were having a little bit of an open house from noon to 1, and it got to see its first run during that time. So the people that were there for that got to see it go out the door. But just wanted to say to everybody, thank you, starting from council who put forth the levy, and to our levy committee that worked hard to promote it, to the citizens of Canal Fulton that voted for it, and to my truck committee that came up with a plan for a truck and an ambulance. And so today we put it in service, and it was out on the road quite a bit. It had an initial call, and then it was following the ambulance because it was already on the road to some other calls. And then,
Excuse me.
And then later in the day, I think we also had a car crash that it ran on. Busy day today. When those that were able to make it came to the little open house, we already had 2 calls, maybe 3 calls under our belt, and it didn't stop. The duty crew left breakfast, and they never got back to the station until about 4 o'clock. Just a very unusual day for us.
Chief, I was watching the cupcakes, so just to let you know. Everyone else left, I watched the cupcakes.
We also commissioned our new John Deere Gator to service today. It's being all outfitted. We've got a few other little touches we're going to add to it. It's going to get a little red wrap on it, so it looks more like a fire vehicle than a farm vehicle. And also, we are continuing with our 800 megahertz radio installs. Right now, we had a limited number of radios that we got through the State Fire Marshal's grant that was at no cost to the city, and that's what we've been operating off is portable radios. But the mobile radios and some additional portable radios that were purchased through the Assistance to Firefighter grant, regional grant, those are being installed right now. So we should be fully operational with that within a week or 2. So other than that, that's my verbal report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions council may have.
So you and Chief Swartz could talk to each other like throughout town?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I can put these radios have like 512 channels in them, but they're not programmed for that. And it's got scan functions, so I can listen to them, and I don't know how yours is, but it's got all kinds of capacity, a lot of it that we'll never use. One of the things it does have is Bluetooth capacity, and so that might make it real convenient for our engineers running the pump. They can wear a Bluetooth headset, and they can walk around and not be tethered or have a line hanging out, things like that. So we're looking at, there was some, the budget came in under what the grant was awarded, so we're looking at maybe some other items kind of like that to round it out a little bit.
Excellent. Any other questions for Chief Durkee? All right. Thank you, sir. Moving on to Police Chief.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Expanding on those radios, it was kind of neat that windstorm we had come in the other night. For the first time, I turned my radio on and just kind of followed the storm as it went through the county with the different police departments and the calls that they were getting coming in. So, yeah, the communication throughout the county is just amazing now. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I really don't have a report. I just want to thank the mayor and the city manager and the fire chief for attending the crime prevention breakfast today. And it's kind of neat to see our elected officials kind of speaking with some of the people I see all the time in the county. Actually, it's kind of nerve-wracking and wondering what you guys are talking about. But nevertheless, thanks for coming.
Okay.
And I'll be gone next week. Sarah will be in the acting chief.
And for those that don't know, Chief Swartz is the president of the Stark County Police Chiefs Association, and he was up on the days of the breakfast this morning. He did a fine job up there.
Thank you. I didn't have to speak, that's why. I appreciate that.
And kudos to Chief Durkee for being, I think, the only fire chief there for the whole county.
Yeah.
And also to Dan Levengood, the treasurer representing Northwest Local Schools. I don't know all the school personnel, but I got to believe he was one of the few who was there from the county. So I thought that was great on his behalf. Thank you. All right, moving on to the engineer, Mr. Dulesky.
Thanks, Mayor. I think the only thing to report tonight is we're finishing up the bid specs for the community park project. Looking to get that out, advertised next Wednesday, the 27th, and also April 3rd. So bid opening up, we're looking at April 19th. So.
Okay. So when we put those bids out, we put those in the newspaper, typically? Okay, they'll be in the repository and, okay. And then do we put them online or anything like that on our website or anything?
Just hoping, Mark, is that?
Yeah, they're going to web. Okay. Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Gillespie? All right, moving on to the street department. I did have one thing that I omitted at the last meeting, and that was the planning commission met about Dakota Street, where it was Dakota Alley. There were no addresses on Dakota Street. There are properties and there are addresses on the other end of Dakota Street, down behind St. Philip St. James. So now that houses are being built on Dakota Street, we're running into a problem where people's GPSs are not finding that Dakota Street. They're not finding the addresses. So I believe the recommendation of the Planning Commission is that we rename that portion of Dakota Street, which basically goes from Cherry Street back to Drake. And they didn't have any recommendations for us. And well, I guess maybe some of the residents someone wanted Barbie Place. But I was going to throw out the proposal of Johnson Belford Drive or Johnson Belford Place. For those of you who know Johnson Belford, served.
Make it something easy.
Yeah, Johnson Belford.
Is there, do we have the authority to name a street? I'm just curious, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we do.
Mr. Shalmo's gonna do it.
Yeah.
His family's like so
Yeah. So, I don't know if that's something council wants to sleep on for a couple weeks, and then we'll bring it back up and we can check out all the details. Mr. Feldman, if you see any issues with that? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Dulesky, would that be okay? All right. You give us street numbers, right?
Address?
Addresses? Okay. All right. So do you guys want to do it now, or do you want to wait a couple weeks and check it out?
Name it now?
Yep.
I just heard this tonight.
Okay. 2 weeks? Hey,
Oh,
don't get me going, Tim.
Bonnie wants the name of Bonnie Avenue.
Yeah, everybody wants, that's why I wanted to get it passed tonight.
is there anything that specifically happened on that street, or anything unique, or I mean, is there anything specifically special about that area that would be reminiscent to?
It never had any addresses.
I'm just curious,
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah, we'll have 2 weeks to do some homework, so. All right,
Can I make a suggestion real quick before we move on?
you sure can.
Something to ponder over the next few weeks in renaming the street. You know, we have a family that's been here forever, and one of them's not doing well. Why don't we consider maybe Hatfield Avenue and naming it after the Hatfield family?
Hey,
So,
sounds good to me.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. All right, so we'll come back in 2 weeks. I think we come back in 2 weeks. Today is the 19th. Yeah. So we'll bring it back up in 2 weeks. And under public utilities, I had reached out to council members to tell you about the person who wanted to annex into the city at the end of Worcester Street and wanted to run water line up there at his own expense, at their own expense, his and hers. And so I wanted to get a voice motion from council to give us the go-ahead to do that. And Mr. Cozy has prepared an agreement, basically ran it by Mr. Feldman. You know, basically an annexation agreement saying that they're going to annex in and they can start working on installing the water line because they've been without water. Their well collapsed and they've been without water for over a month now. So, didn't know if you all had any questions, and if I could get a voice motion, we could go ahead and get started on that. So.
has our engineer looked things over for that area up there, and
I'll let him speak to it.
Yeah, so we looked it over. I think in this instance, you know, this is in the area where the water tower project is going to occur also. So I think this would be a temporary fix for this residence until that project would get constructed. We'd get a permanent line
Right, because you'd said like 200 and some feet of what, 2-inch pipe?
820 feet.
2-inch pipe?
Right, yep.
And,
They'll have to put a booster pump in their basement to draw the water up, because it's gotta go uphill.
and will that have any effect on our water,
That's
on
what,
our water lines going up that way, by any chance?
that's why we reached out to CTI, basically.
And so
Talk to
he's
them.
gonna pay for everything?
Yep.
And once down the road, whenever the water tower is in, will that have to be taken out and something else put in?
You could, or you could,
I mean,
They
will
could-
it,
I don't think it would matter. From what I understand, we're not going to connect what gets put in up on the hill with what's down below. So it's gonna be one of those areas that we could actually put new lines in by, as that Lockhart property gets developed, by coming up just across the street to all those duplexes.
I was gonna say, will the water line go up past those duplexes?
Yep. Yep. That's where this water line is going, and that's what Keith's talking about, is someday, as we get that water tower built and run the lines down and develop that, they're probably gonna tie into that line, because right now, they don't have fire suppression, and that's really one of the keys to, why.
And the water line is, no one else is interested. Well, he's in that brick house, right?
I think
It's
it's
a-
all the way
it's
at
a-
the end.
Yeah, it's a
Right before you
one
get to
floor,
Stone Hill.
right past
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
and he's contiguous to us across
Yeah.
the street, because,
Now, we're beside him.
oh, really?
This is the first house in the township after you get out of the city. So
Okay,
his
I must
neighbor
miss-
on the side is contiguous to him, so if the land across the street wasn't contiguous, he would still be
Oh,
contiguous that way.
so he is contiguous. And so he knows if he annexes, he's gonna be receiving the services and having to pay for the,
That's what that agreement is. All right,
okay?
can I get a voice motion?
Prepare legislation, or what do you want the voice motion to be?
I would say to give us the approval to go ahead and start work, and approve Mark to sign that agreement with him for annexation.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Bonnie Finnefrock.
No, it's not.
Bonnie Donaldson.
I gotta change my name, that's all there is to it.
Wow.
Turn your little placard towards him.
There you go. Thanks, Bonnie. There we go.
There you go.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call.
Dan Booker,
Yes.
Eric Whittington,
Yes.
Sue Mayberry,
Yes.
Scott Schwab,
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Bonnie Brimrock.
Watch it. Don't make fun of me, Scott. Okay. All right, moving on to planning and zoning. I don't think we have anything to report, Mark, do you?
Well, the regular meeting's been rescheduled for next year.
The 28th.
Instead of 21st, which is a normal day, it's actually 28th this month.
All right, finance director?
I included the February financial statements in the packets. Income tax through February is down 5% compared to last year. It's primarily in the withholdings, which is not necessary. I mean, obviously, we would rather have it be up. What's really caused that is just the timing of some of the free payroll months for our bigger employers, and in particular, the schools had a 3 payroll month early in the year last year, and they haven't had that yet, and that's throwing those numbers off. So I think that's more of a timing issue that should reverse itself as we progress through the year. I included in the POs, purchase order number 12,063 to MuniLink. That's for the software that we did the presentation on at the last meeting. That's the choice that we want to move forward with. I just, at the last discussion when he was going through the presentation, I hadn't received the quotes yet from the other software providers, and just wanted to let you know that basically when we got those quotes, SSI software, basically they both came in around $30,000 up front to buy the software, and then the annual maintenance costs would be around 5,000-6,000 versus this option with Muni Link where we pay basically a 5,000 conversion fee and then $800 monthly going forward. So we like this software. I think it's a little better anyway, but then the price saves us from a rather large upfront expenditure. And then the only other thing that I have is Ordinance 919 is an appropriation amendment to pay for some of the purchase orders that are presented here, and then for the renovations in the park and engineering. I made a mistake in that amount. We don't need to pass it tonight. I'm not asking for that, but I will need to amend it before the next
Which
meeting.
one is?
Ordinance 919, 9-19.
You need to,
I'll have to change the
All right.
amount, so it will change before the second reading. The only other thing I have is I will also, and not with Doug, but I will be on vacation next week as well, so.
Do my finances while I'm on vacation.
Yeah, you'll be missing finance experts. Well, you have Scott here too, so he can hold down the fort while we're gone. So. That's all I have at this point. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I have a question. On the third reading, the ordinance 519, that changes to the previously authorized appropriations, the 10,300. That 10,300 then is rolled into ordinance 719?
No. Ordinance 5-19
Which one?
was two purchase orders you approved a couple meetings ago to pay for, like the field survey engineering that Civ Pro has done already.
Okay.
And then the ordinance 7-19 is the park master plan for EDG.
All right, 719 contains, it says previously approved within the legislation, previously approved 10.3.
Yes.
And where did that 10.3 come from? I guess that's what my question is. And this is the original park master plan, the 23.
The 23-250 is the park master plan for EDG. The 10-3
Because we're going to be approving then a total of 33.5.
That's what the total will be after the adjustment.
Right.
The 10-3 was
What was that?
That was two invoices that Civ Pro Engineering submitted for field survey work that they had already done over there at the park. And we had already approved those purchase orders.
Okay.
So there's two of them for 10-3?
The two total 10-3. Yeah.
The two total 10,300, and that's it right there?
Yes. It's just this appropriation is catching up with two purchase orders. we
Okay,
had approved
I just-
before.
Yeah, I just was having a hard time understanding that. So, all right, that's all I had, thank you.
All right. Moving on to city manager.
Yes, members of council, we have 4 items this evening. First off, the mayor did ask me to check with ODNR today about going to bid on the grading and parking lot portion of the park. We can do that now, and they gave us to go ahead and do that. It's just we have to, once the master plan is done, and then we get the section 1 application done, then we can begin applying for reimbursements on that stuff. So, yeah, we can go ahead and move forward on the engineering and all that. Second item, we did have the consultant for the park master plan came to the park board meeting last week, and met with the park board and some city officials to lay the groundwork for planning the new community park. At that meeting, it was pretty much obvious that most people there want to keep the splash pad that's in the old plan, and maybe even make it bigger for different age groups and different levels of use. We're gonna keep 1 recreational ball field, 2 athletic fields, soccer size for youth, basketball courts, shelter restroom. Right now, in the current project plan, we have a water detention area, The people in attendance thought it'd be better to make that into a fishing pond in the future. That's something we can do. Let's see what else. A playground also. We are also planning the public meeting for this park will be announced soon, and all the community will be invited to participate in the planning process of the park. So that's good stuff here. Also, we have our second public meeting for the active transportation plan to start parks in Canal Fulton. That's March 27th, 6 p.m. at the Canal Grill Banquet. And I also have an update on the Butter Bridge intersection project that we've been talking about. And I'll give some at the mayor, but I'll get you all updated tonight. They plan to begin work in September with the road closure. But it's a partial closure because they're going to maintain traffic on 21 throughout the project. But there'll be periods of time when people can't cross, the highway on Butter Bridge. The road will be closed beginning in September for a couple months in the fall. It'll open back up in the winter time and then close again sometime in the summer of 2020 to finish the project for another 2 months. And that's how they plan on doing it. So once we get closer to that, we'll have exact dates, and they're going to have a meeting. We're all going to be invited to that meeting, the township and city officials, just a kickoff meeting for this project.
And what is it they're doing?
They're doing what's called R-cut U-turn. There's been a number of accidents there. Yeah, they call it Michigan, yeah. Where instead of being able to drive straight through Butter Bridge on both sides across 21, you have to turn right, go down several hundred feet, make a U-turn and come back.
Which is gonna be really good for semis.
Well, that's the issue.
I
You
know.
have to have enough room for the trucks to slow down and speed up to get back on the road. So they're telling us it works, what the engineers are saying, and the state projects, we really don't have any say over it.
I know.
I know Mike Stevens, one of the trustees, lives out there, and he's seen a lot of those accidents, and he's told me that if it saves one life, it's worth it to him, because he lives there, he's seen what happens in that intersection, so hopefully ODOT knows what they're doing. That's all I have.
Any other questions for Mr. Cozy? All right, thank you, Mark. The mayor's breakfast is this Friday, March 22nd, 8 a.m. at the Canal, what is it? Elm Ridge Event Center. Is that what it's called now? It used to be Party Center, now Event Center. And there's, you can purchase your tickets at the door. There's still some tickets left over. And then the Canal Boat is opening, I believe, May 11th. Is that the first Saturday, or no, the second Saturday, right before Mother's Day? And we're going to try to have 3 rides that day rather than the typical 2. So you can check on details there. And then, I don't know, we might as well just get into it now. If, we've got a lot of people here, and we've got some issues to try to resolve. And so what I want to address first is the bridge. We've been approached by ODOT, which basically told us that, and I gave council packets, and then Mr. and Mrs. Duval gave me this one. This is the legislation that was passed here by the state legislature, and it basically goes into law tonight at midnight?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So this is, to give everybody an update, the Cherry Street Bridge, as we know it, has always been the Cherry Street Bridge. In 1997, 98, the bridge was being rebuilt, and one of the engineers on it, was your dad an engineer, Christina?
He was a builder.
Builder, okay. Was working on it, a local resident, and they stopped work for the winter, very similar to what Mark said they'll do on the Route 21. And he went to Florida and passed away suddenly. And the family wanted to memorialize him and rename the bridge in his honor. That prompted some opposition from council, village leaders at the time, who basically said, you know, that's the Cherry Street Bridge and we don't want to change the name. And council has packets of correspondence from that time period that goes back to see the back and forth between our law director and the county commissioner at the time. And basically, the way I understand it, the compromise was that they would, council passed a resolution to give them permission to put plaques on the bridge to memorialize their dad. But there wasn't to be a ceremony or dedication or anything like that. So that's where we stood. The plaques were installed, and they're on the sidewalk portion of the barrier that separates the sidewalk from the street traffic. And fast forward to today, and probably back in October of last year, our street department superintendent, Gary Hosking, contacted me and said, hey, got a call from somebody from ODOT, and they are renaming the bridge, and they want to put a sign up to honor Lance Corporal Michael Stangelo. And I knew the name. I had Michael as a student in school, so I recognized that. And so we were just kind of miffed about, okay, where are we going to put a sign? They want to put a sign up. So I don't know, someplace along the line, Christina, maybe you can pick it. I don't know, how did it come to your attention? Did you find legislation, or how did you become aware that that naming process was going on?
Yes, it was brought to my attention, and I obviously did my own research to
Okay.
find out that that was in the works, because I didn't have any idea.
Okay.
The family had never been contacted, and we went through the process with the
Okay.
engineer's office to do what we were supposed to do to get the bridge dedicated to start with.
Yeah, okay. So, in the meantime, after that, and I think Christina showed up to a council meeting previously and brought it to our attention. We discussed it briefly, told you that we would do some more research, and so that's what the packet you have in front of you, and I think some of you have seen it before with the correspondence back and forth. Probably 3 weeks ago, I met with Mr. and Mrs. Duval, Michael's parents, and we met with Christina Rugner, and she is the state senator, and then we met with Bill Romer, who is the state representative. So we met on a Saturday here and discussed it. The senator shared with us her thoughts were that, you know, the state legislature, she voted on it, they voted on it, the governor signed it, and it's become law. And in the meantime, Sue, I think you were the one who found the Ohio Revised Code for us, and we reviewed the Ohio Revised Code. And Mr. Felmuth, would you like to share with us your opinion on where this whole thing?
Well, no one ever asked us.
Yeah.
They just did it unilaterally. And in my opinion, law is the city has to concur, okay, with the renaming of the bridge.
Okay.
Right. That's my legal opinion on it.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to where we are today, and I talked to both families over the weekend, and you know, I don't know where council wants to go with this, but basically we probably need to get some kind of resolution, and I don't know if I see three options, and Scott, maybe you can find out, or someone else can brainstorm another one. Basically, we could just dig our feet in the ground and say, no, you're not going to rename that bridge, it's the Cherry Street Bridge, and that's the way it's going to stay. Or the other option is we could just kind of let it go, and the state law would come into effect, but we'd still need a resolution. Would you?
The city has to concur with the
Okay.
renaming the bridge.
Okay.
You know, perhaps the simple way to do this would be just to put up plaques for a soldier who gave up his life, and also the girlfriend. and just let it go at that.
So that was kind of like option 3. I
I mean, that's not my decision. I mean,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
That's council's decision to make.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to, you
Yeah.
know.
And so the option that I shared with both families over the weekend is that you know, we could go back to the state of Ohio and say, this is always going to be the Cherry Street Bridge. This whole structure is called the Cherry Street Bridge. We could have a pedestrian portion of the bridge, and because the Albrecht's plaque is already facing the pedestrian walkway on both sides of the bridge, that could be the pedestrian bridge and named in honor and dedicated to Mr. Albrecht. And then Michael Stangelo's dedication could be for the traffic portion of the bridge. And that would not be a sign on the bridge, but it would be a sign in the right-of-way. And they're brown signs. I went to Columbus over the weekend, so I drove by quite a few of them. And so those signs would be posted so that northbound and southbound traffic could see it before you cross the bridge. So that's what I'm throwing out there to council, and I'm just going to leave it open to discussion. I don't know if the families want to speak to it at all, or if council wants to weigh in on it.
Are you talking about a sign, a plaque on a pole in the public right-of-way?
Yep, we have
And
one.
I try to envision it, I can't envision it. Is there,
I'll tell you where one is, on Route 21 in between Butter Bridge and 93 is the Michael Barkey, named in Michael Barkey's honor. And you see them over bridge spans, you see them on strips of highway. There's one on Route 62 in between 77 and Cleveland Avenue, named after a female military person.
I have a question,
Yep.
and no disrespect.
Yep.
At what point will we have multiple requests for multiple signs in places that, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just looking, at this, there's specific places where, I'm not even sure, I can't recall why was the bridge, I understand the Albrecht sign on the bridge, I understand that. I'm just curious, and no disrespect, is there a reason why this bridge was chosen?
Yes.
I can't recall.
Yes.
For the Albrecht or the DeVault?
No, the DeVault. I don't recall how that came about.
David, if I could interrupt you, I'm sorry, because
no problem.
normally, Christina, what's your address for the record so that we have it, your home address?
2032, Summit.
Okay, thank you. That goes back to when you spoke. David, could you give us your address too?
7651 High Mill.
Okay. And it's David Duval?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I was a firefighter with Lawrence Township from 98 to 09, and during that time we supported Canal Days as the volunteers, dunk tank, and of course the whole family is down there during that time, and we've spent a lot of time during that time on that bridge, manning fire trucks, spending time with the family while you did the fireworks, and as growing up, Mom was down in the park and on the bridge a lot. We did the water barrel on these were all family events, and that was why that bridge was picked, and it was also the last bridge he crossed on his way to his final resting spot.
Now I recall, now I remember. Okay.
Yes, and that's why this bridge was picked.
Yeah, so can you take us through that process of when you wanted to do something, you called out to?
So we found the bridge, we got
Well, they
the number,
told you to,
we got the number off of the bridge, and then Bridges from the Fallen was who was kind of told us the steps of it.
okay.
And then we contacted the state representative to find out who owned the bridge.
Okay, that was Marilyn Slavy that you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And at that time, they told us the state owned the bridge. So then they
That was going back to what, 2016 probably?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's when they put together the House Bill 275.
Okay.
And that House bill went, I want to say a little over a year and a half, and then it passed the House. The Speaker of the House resigned, it stalled. It went back in July, I want to say June, July. They got a new Speaker of the House, and there were multiple bills that were put into Senate Bill 86 because they were so far behind on the passing of the bills. And then Senate Bill 86 is what passed, I want to say around December 19th. And that's what goes into effect tonight at midnight. In Senate Bill 86 is House Bill 275.
This goes into effect tonight?
Yes, midnight.
And this states, the bill designates the following bridge and authorizes the Director of Transportation to erect suitable markers on the bridge or its approaches indicating its name will be Lance Corporal Michael Stangelo, USMC Memorial Bridge.
So that's what'll go on the sign, and the sign will go
So they're
in the
telling
right.
us that that this is what it will be. So do we have
According to Mr. Falmouth, we do, and I think he's right.
I mean, does this
Yeah.
trump anything we would think or not? I mean,
I'll
I'm
let-
just curious, is what I'm reading here.
Mr. Falmouth?
No, they've never asked our permission to do that. The bridge is entirely within a non-contiguous area in the city of Canal Fulton, and their higher revised code says that they have to have our approval by a resolution to do that for the new bridge. We never ever consulted it.
Right,
This is the government coming down. This is what's happening in our country right now. Everything's being shoved down our throats.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
I
guess
understand.
I'm
Okay.
asking.
I just wanted to,
Yeah.
this is my first chance.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not seeing
I mean,
this.
no disrespect.
I guess
to yourself.
I guess I'm asking council to please approve those signs to be posted as the state law is going to take effect tonight, whether you post them or not. But I'm asking council to please post these signs.
All right. Do you guys have any other questions for Mr. and Mrs.
I'm trying to
Duval?
understand the state law you're saying it's gonna go into effect.
Well,
Senate Bill 86 becomes law.
Turn it over, Jim.
And March 20th at midnight. Or March 20th, it becomes state law.
All right. Joe, you
What
have
is
this?
the state law?
Yeah.
The bridge.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So,
It could be state law and call that, doesn't mean if we don't agree to it, then it's
correct,
not.
correct. And I don't think they're gonna
May I
march
say
in
something,
here.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I mean absolutely no disrespect to your son. I certainly appreciate, okay, the sacrifice you made to your country. But what a lot of people, I'll just go back to the Vietnam War. There were 3 Northwest graduates, okay, that were killed in Vietnam, okay. One of them was Lieutenant Thomas Culp, who was a graduate of West Point, all right. There was no sign or plaque up in his name, and, I can remember, him. And, I would have no objection to a plaque on the bridge, but, I think the state has to ask council's approval on this. And, and I think council has to decide what they want to do.
So that's why we're here. So, I don't know if, council, you want to hear, Christina, do you want to speak?
Well,
Okay.
I know that Steve has something to say, and so does my husband, so we can just,
Okay.
like our side.
Yep.
Can I say one thing? first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it will piggyback on to your
Well, it's
question.
hard to take away from one to give to someone else. I don't find that, I'm sorry, but I don't.
So, my name's Doug Smith, 2032 Summer Evening Drive here in Canal Fulton. So throughout this whole process of looking at a bridge, we had talked about semantics and that, whose name is a bridge? Is it the Cherry Street Bridge? Is it just memorialized for Wayne Albrecht and so on? I think Attorney Felmuth is correct. The state does not have the right now to name that bridge without consulting the city of Canal Fulton. Go back to 1990 when the law was in effect for when the issues came up with the Wayne Albrecht Bridge. The village of Canal Fulton did not have that right. It was not until amendment to the law in 2008, which would be Senate Bill 44 with the 127th General Assembly, that changed it to add bridges to allow that local municipality to get the naming rights to the bridge and the, I guess,
Yeah, 2008, you're correct.
right.
It's right here in the Ohio Revised Code.
Right, so the issue comes into play, you're correct, they need to check with you, but more importantly, the state has no right to name that bridge because there's already a name on it, and the director of Ohio Department of Transportation has to cut an order to rename the bridge, okay, or to take the old name off and name the new one. So now, if you look at 1998 with the Albrecht family, they had to compromise with the village, with the county, with the state to get their father's plaque put on the bridge. Compromise. And Mayor, God bless you and all the work that you did on it. I know you and I sparred back and forth. But the issue comes to this. You're asking the Albrecht family to capitulate once again. You want them to surrender and compromise 20 years later when they've done it once. My recommendation would be to Representative Romer to sit there and enact the legislation to rename a roadway, even if it's a portion of the roadway of 93 going across the bridge, Lance Corporal Michael Stangelo Memorial Roadway. That way we don't have 3 different bridges, because if you walk across the bridge, it says Memorial Bridge, not pedestrian bridge or anything else. So my suggestion would be for Representative Romer to enact legislation and fast track the signings for the Duvall family instead of having 3 names on a bridge. So I agree with you, Mr. Feldman, the state has no right, plus they don't have the right to name a bridge that's already named. And that's in the ORC.
Christina, you want to speak?
I'll let Steve speak first, because he was around and part of this process.
Steve Henderson, I live at 865 Colonial. I was the project engineer on that job. For the record, I'm not a PE, I'm just a pretend PE, I guess. But I was working with Wayne on that particular job, and I gotta tell you, the man built that bridge. He ran 2 cranes at once. He would lift a beam up, move it 6 inches, walk across the beam, get on the other crane, move it another 12 inches, walk back across. He did this for weeks because he couldn't get a crew in there for 2 weeks. The man built the water system in Canal Fulton. He's done a lot for this community. He has actually dug up wood water lines. That's how far back he goes. Back in the days when they used water, they lasted forever, but he actually replaced some of them. He was very, he did quite a bit of work on our infrastructure. He died suddenly before he could finish this bridge. I gotta tell you, it broke my heart. And I actually was the initiator of naming that bridge when I suggested it to Mr. Barr, and did some of the initial paperwork to make that happen before Christine actually got involved and picked up the cross and ran. We did get that changed, and it was through the county engineer. At the time, the county owned the bridge. Now, we had many obstacles. At the time, Canal Fulton actually wanted to name it the Puffenberger Bridge after they heard the proposal that it be named the Wayne Albrecht Bridge. That wasn't appropriate for Frank Fisher, who at the time was the county engineer. He wanted it named after Wayne Albrecht because he had done quite a bit of work for the county also. And I had known Wayne for 17 years before that on various projects throughout the county. So now we come to this portion, and I don't want to take anything away from our fallen son, who apparently gave everything he had for his life and more, because he couldn't bear it after the fact. he does need to be memorialized. And I would like to propose that we name a portion of the highway on Route 93 through the bridge area, just as Mr. Smith
Yep.
recommended.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. Christina?
So I'm just gonna stand right here, because I'm gonna kind of speak on behalf of two of my three brothers are here, Wayne, Scott, and my mother, which I just informed her of this today, and broke her heart. This was a long, long process. Matter of fact, I will come up here because this book was created, and I would love for you guys to look at it. It starts from the old bridge, and it's a history of this city, which was a village. The entire bridge, as it's being constructed, piece by piece, by piece, by piece. Everybody that worked on it, everything that was done, every newspaper article, everything that we did in detail of everything that my father did. And it's not just about us. When this started, I went around door to door and got a petition. I had 400 and some signatures from everybody in the tiny village to see if they were in support of this. And they were in support of this. I went to the engineer's office, and I poured my heart and soul out for our family. And they agreed. They stamped it. They said, yes, this is going to be in the system. This is what happens. This is what you're allowed to do. No, I wasn't allowed to name anything. But we paid for the plaques. The plaques went up, and it was a memorial. I'm sorry to you guys. I'm truly sorry. I know that that bridge probably meant something. I don't even know that it was that bridge at the time when you guys even enjoyed it. It might have been the old bridge. But to me, there has to be another location, another thing, because our system screwed up. They didn't go back there and look at the bridge and say, oh, this is already named. That was our system that screwed up. So our system needs to fix the problem that it created. Not just sweep it under the rug and say, we need to do something about this. Well, yeah, we do. This was already done. Why are we changing history? Why can't we just, like you said, compromise? The compromise was proposed about a pedestrian bridge. The pedestrian bridge wasn't built for my father. The whole bridge was. That was the memorial bridge, and that's why. I came back to you and said, if they want to memorialize him to put the pedestrian bridge in their honor, that was our compromise. You said absolutely not. They said no. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
I have a final thing I forgot to mention. The two plaques that are on that bridge that say the Cherry Street Bridge, it's a picture of the old bridge that was built in 1913, was washed out, and the new bridge was washed out in 1913. That new steel bridge was built in 1913, and we replaced it with this bridge. They put those plaques on that bridge because it was an environmental commitment, because it was a historical bridge. And those plaques had to remain, even though it was renamed Wayne Albrecht Memorial.
And I got, that's the part that, you know, I don't think it's right to say the bridge was renamed. Because it's clear, Steve, through all the correspondence here, and Doug mentioned that, you know, the plaque said Wayne Albrecht Memorial Bridge in this correspondence I have from, you know, 1998 from September 3rd. It says, I'm writing to inform you Canal Fulton Village Council agreed to a memorial plaque inscribed with, in memory of Wayne Albrecht, would be appropriate to place on the State Route 93 Cherry Street Bridge. So, you know.
I believe that's what it says.
Yes, and that was by Dan Mayberry.
Yeah.
And I provided you with that documentation.
Right. Yeah.
So I do know, when you asked me, it was not renamed, no, because I tried to get it renamed, and back to his point, we compromised. We couldn't rename it.
Mm-hmm.
Village said no, we dedicated it. We just couldn't have a ceremony, and that was it. It was
So
dedicated.
the issue came between the conflict between the county commissioners and the village
Right.
of who had the right. I would assume, and I'm making a broad assumption here, that the change into 551104 or 09 was done probably because of this, of the difficulty in naming a bridge for a municipality. I could be wrong, but you know, it seems like that time frame would go. So the compromise was a compromise between the family, the commissioners, and the village with the Wayne Albrecht Memorial Bridge.
Which the village agreed to.
And there's a letter, I don't know if you have it, Mayor, from February of 1998, where the mayor of the village of Canal Fulton and the service director both agreed to that. And that was a letter from, it was a meeting between, I believe, Mr. Barth and Mr. Barth, the mayor, the service director, and the county engineer.
Yeah, this one, this is from Mr. Drager. Is that the one you're referring to?
David Drager was ODOT.
Is this where Tom Hessen was mentioned?
No, we've been after that.
You got a copy of it?
No.
You've got one, it's in there.
February 17th. We recently met with the mayor, service director. Okay. And they also agreed that a plaque would be appropriate. Okay, and then, so that's February 7th, and then September 3rd was when we get the wording about in memory of Wayne Albrecht. So, that's-
Yeah, and there was another reference to the October 20th council meeting, 1998. I know, Ms. Mayberry, you were looking up.
I was trying to find the minutes and I could not find.
So it would have been from the meeting of October 20th, 1998.
Well, what throws me a little bit is the letter from Dan Mayberry to Mr. Barth. I am writing you to inform you Canal Fulton Village Council agreed, and that's dated September the 3rd, 1998. So in order for council to have formally agreed, for me, that agreement would have been
Predated.
before September the 3rd.
Mhm.
I didn't know that until
Yep, you looked at
after
that.
the meeting started, so
Yep.
I'm thinking,
If you looked in August.
if
they
you went
find-
back even to August or
Yeah.
July, you
Mhm.
might find rationale. I wanted to find that and I couldn't, but I didn't, but this date, I was looking in December, November, when the legislation actually got passed.
Mhm.
But evidently, they agreed to something prior to that, and I've not found it.
Okay.
I'd love to get my hands on it again,
Yeah.
but,
Well, it explains why you didn't find it, though, I
right,
think.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
All right, anybody else want to speak to it? Wayne, got it? Okay.
I just want to basically say that, the procedure that is now the current ORC law for naming bridges and everything else that's listed in this is our authority, as Mr. Felmuth spoke. When you start getting emotional and when you're making decisions by a legislative body, that's where things start, that's when you make mistakes. Because you open up the box. And you can't get emotional about making decisions. This is not a place for emotions to rule your decisions. So basically, prior council, what they determined to do, I believe stands, this ORC stands, and that's, leave the bridge alone. That's my,
I agree.
there's other areas.
I agree.
That's my stance. Your heart tugs, but you can't go there. I'm sorry. It's not a popular
Like I
place
said,
to
you
sit,
can't
is
take it
it?
away from one to give to someone else. That's
Well,
not
I
right.
think you got to back up there. You're not taking it away from one because
We want everything to stay.
they don't want the plaques taken down. That bridge was not named the Wayne Albrecht Bridge. All that they have was permission to put a plaque on the bridge. So when you say you're taking,
And that's what it's been known as.
As what?
To the family. They've known that all along.
Bonnie,
The state senator basically said we could ask that the plaques be removed, and we're not asking for that.
So,
Because of it being law now.
so you understand, Bonnie, no one's asking,
I can't even think.
you can't, who are you taking away from?
Us.
The
Okay.
office, yes.
In what way?
Yes.
Because what you see here is a letter from Dan Mayberry saying that you have a right, and the wording on, that was supposed to be on the plaque, do you see that letter in there?
Yes, I did, I
Okay,
read that.
so that's what it was supposed to say. So the bridge was never, and that's what we have to point out, the bridge was never dedicated or renamed in honor of Mr. Albrecht.
Mayor, what
Yep.
would happen, they said that you could ask to have it removed, what happens if another family comes
It's law now.
and they say, I want it removed, you know, should we,
You're not gonna, it's now state law, that bridge has become state law now, that's named in Michael's. Whether you approve to put the sign up or not, it's named in Michael's. It's just whether you want to advertise it or not. It's not gonna change.
Well, and that's the issue. I'm talking to, two of the state representatives and the chief legal counsel for the Ohio Department of Transportation that's researching this now. I think the best compromise, because let's take Mr. Albrecht out of it. And you're saying the bridge isn't named, and we can go with semantics and whether the village
Exactly.
had the authority back then or not.
that's-
Irrelevant.
Yeah,
It's a Cherry Street Bridge.
right.
The state of Ohio can't rename it.
That's our position, that's our law director's position, without them coming to us. And that's where the mistake
So
is,
now,
Doug. The
my
mistake
issue is
not on our part.
Representative Slavy did not do her due diligence. And the lame duck session of the 132nd General Assembly let this go, and they ramrodded it into a massive Senate bill. And all this got pushed through. No one in here was
It did not
contacted.
get pushed through. It stood on there, if you look at your dates on there, this was introduced in 2016.
Through the House, correct?
Yeah, 2017, and it never passed until, or it never came out of the transportation. It never passed the House until December of 2018.
Correct. It took so long for that, and I agree with them. But the
So
issue
it wasn't
is,
ramrodded in.
when it went through the Senate bill with that big package, the issue was no one came to the city of Canal Fulton, which they would be required to by the Ohio Revised Code. So the issue comes, my suggestion, the compromise in it, is not have three names on one bridge that honor him by it being Lance Corporal Michael Stangelo, USMC, Memorial Roadway. And it goes right over that bridge, and then his name is there. But there isn't three names for a bridge, because,
So you're basically talking about rewording the name on the on the sign.
right, instead of saying it's his Memorial Bridge,
Right.
it's his Memorial Roadway.
Okay.
That's the compromise, because the Albrecht family made a compromise 20 years ago on this. Now we're being asked to make it, but it's being done by, we have to capitulate to it. We just have to surrender and let it go. And that's wrong.
So back to what Chief Schwartz said, if we pull ourselves off of the bridge, then it opens up somebody else to come along and do it.
Well, they would have to come to us first.
Right.
And
And that's the
Township
step
for
that's
Because we're
missing.
aware of
5 years
this
have been
now.
uninterested in
So
renaming
could we
the
go
bridge.
back to the state of Ohio and say, hey, you didn't approve of this?
Yeah, that's,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
my hope.
Yeah.
Look, I didn't even cut this short. Let's just look at
I think we
a
can go by it.
resolution, December 12th, 98, which says a Cherry Street Bridge, okay, and the village council feels appropriate to place a plaque in memory of the engineer, Mr. Albrecht. That is the law we have right now in the city of Canal Fulton, and I want to change it.
But I think the best thing is getting Mr. Romer and Mrs. Rogner to amend the law to change the wording on that sign, and it helps him have his Memorial Roadway
Yeah.
across that.
Which is basically the traffic portion, okay? And so you're not looking for any, that you just want to keep everything the way you have it now? Just
Yeah,
a plaque on
the bridges stay the bridges, but the roadway is now dedicated.
The bridge would stay the Cherry Street Bridge with a memorial plaque for Mr. Albrecht.
Right.
And then we
That
would
seems like the logical way to do it.
name that portion of the roadway and just change Michael's sign to, rather than Memorial Bridge, Memorial Roadway.
It'll have to all go through legislation.
Yeah, yeah, but we can kind of fast track that. Is everybody in agreement with that?
That's
How do you
fine.
feel about
Okay.
doing that?
I wish your wife was here.
I know, it's a tough, I'm a military veteran, I would do anything for, you know, for a soldier, for a fellow soldier. But also going back to history, when you have a family, when there's a person who built that entire bridge, you gotta stick with the history too.
Oh, yeah.
And then going back with, what Scott said, you have to stick with the law, the way it's supposed to be. So, what it all boils down to is, I think we should go back to the state of Ohio, or do it like you said. And if you're willing to just let us rename that road so that the family and the history can keep that bridge with their name and memorial on it.
Do you know what they made the sign yet, David? I'm sorry, Eric.
Well, I mean, that way, you
No, I
know,
don't.
we can honor a fallen soldier, we can honor a family whose family member built that main bridge coming into town, and we can take care of everybody at the same time and not have to. I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Because it wasn't our fault, it never came
was
to us,
nobody.
it was
Yeah.
from higher
Yeah.
up. But I don't want to see anything happen to the Albrecht family, I don't want to see anything happen, you know, to your family. Let's do both, and do it in agreement to where they don't have to settle to, you know, again, and we still can honor your family.
Alrighty, so I'll speak to Mr. Romer tomorrow and let him know where we're at, and we can start redrafting, and we'll get a resolution passed and follow the right steps from our local end this time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, moving on. Let's see. Oh, we need this thing dedicated to the museum.
I wanna see that.
Is it yours? It needs dedicated to the city. I'm telling you. Now, you know what? These guys are gonna be like kids in a candy store here. They're not gonna be paying attention here. All right. Let's move on to Parks and Rec. I told you the first boat ride's May 11th. Law Director?
No report.
Thank you, sir. Third readings, Mr. Rouse or Mr. Schwartz, who's taking over?
Ordinance 5-19, an ordinance amending ordinance 45-18 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations.
Motion to approve ordinance 519.
Second.
We have a motion by Dan Booker Jr., seconded by Scott Schwab. Any discussion?
Can I ask a question? The $10,300 to pay for engineering site plan prep at the community park. Where exactly is this engineering and site plan prep going to be? Is it going to be, what areas?
It's the roadway and the parking lot, Keith?
Correct, and also the sewer extension.
Sewer extension, and then also the retention pond or detention?
Okay, I just wanted,
Detention pond, okay.
I just wanted
Yeah.
clarification of that.
So, and what I'm trying to do is keep a running total. We pass everything here, we're gonna be at $50,800 out of that $750,000. Then we're going out to bids.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so
So this is all reimbursable?
this is all reimbursable. It better be.
But it
because-
just takes more out of the grant, is what you're saying.
Takes
Well,
more out of what we
That's,
could
it's,
use towards the
it's paying
park.
to do
We
what
could
the
use it for
grant.
something else instead.
Well,
Yeah.
you can't really do this, I mean, you still need to do engineering on it, so this has to go first. You can't put something else there until you do this.
Yeah.
And it's just like the master plan. Can't do anything without that. All right, we have motion seconded, we had discussion. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Scott Schwab?
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson?
Is that yes?
Bonnie?
Were you voting? Bonnie
I
Donaldson?
did not hear.
Sorry.
What's your vote?
Yes.
Dan Booker?
Yes.
Eric Whittington?
Yes.
Sue Mavor?
Yes,
Ordinance 6-19, an ordinance amending ordinance 45-18 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations.
I need to say something before this. Isn't the HPC going to be reviewing this whole issue?
Next week.
And how could we pass something before they've even How could we address this before HBC has seen it, or,
I think we should table this one.
I mean,
until they
that
talk
just,
about it.
to me, just doesn't make any sense.
Well,
We already had a purchase
Problem
order.
Yeah.
is you've already passed the purchase order. We'll have a budget
Yeah.
violation if we don't.
Well, I'll tell you, I know I voted to pass the purchase order, but HPC needed to be involved in this whole thing from the get-go, and they weren't.
Contract's already gone.
Okay.
okay. All right, any further discussion? Need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion to pass 619.
Second.
We have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Roll call?
Bonnie Donaldson,
Yes.
Sue Mayberry,
No.
Eric Whittington,
Yes.
Dan Booker,
Yes.
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Ordinance 7-19, an ordinance amending ordinance 45-18 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations. First readings, ordinance 8-19, an ordinance amending ordinance 45-18 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations. Ordinance 9-19, an ordinance amending ordinance 45-18 and providing for changes to previously authorized appropriations. Purchase orders. Purchase order number 12,078 to Civ Pro Engineering in the amount of $10,000 for boundary survey of Community Park.
Motion to approve PO 12078 to Cipro Engineering in the amount of $10,000.
Second.
We have a motion by Dan Booker Jr., seconded by Scott Schwab. Any discussion? Roll call?
Dan Booker?
Yes.
Scott Schwab?
Yes.
Sue Mayberry?
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson?
Yes.
Eric Whittington? Purchase order number 12,072 to Stark County Regional Planning in the amount of $10,000 for transportation and connectivity plan.
Motion to pass PO number 12072 in the amount of 10,000 to Stark County Regional Planning.
Second. We have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion?
Could you explain what this is gonna be for in the big picture? I can't.
This is a local match for the grant we have with Stark Parks to give the.
That's right.
Transportation.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's all right, don't be.
Okay.
That's why we're here then.
That was discussion, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Never mind.
All right. Roll call?
Scott Schwab?
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson?
Yes.
Sue Mayberry?
Yes.
Dan Booker?
Yes.
Eric Whittington? Purchase order number 12,059 to the Wood Guy in the amount of $7,000 for lot clearing and removal of stumps and brush at the community park.
Motion to approve PO 12059 to the Wood Guy in the amount of $7,000.
Okay, we have a motion by Dan Booker Jr., seconded by Eric Whittington. Any discussion?
Yes. I have a question. How many quotes did we get on this?
4.
They were the best?
Yeah.
Now, let me ask. What part of the area, is this for the parking lot area and all that?
Yeah, the
Because
road actually.
road?
This is the road, so if you're down at the park and you see the fire hydrant, you know, you see
Okay.
all the construction going on, straight back there, and some of the brush has been taken out. It's a lot thinner than it was,
Okay,
so that's,
all right.
okay? All righty. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Dan Booker?
Yes.
Eric Whittington? Sue Mayberry?
Yes.
Scott Schwab?
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson?
Yes.
Purchase order number 12,061 to J.A. Chapinar Excavating, Inc. in the amount of $44,000 for water line repairs on Towpath Street.
Motion to approve PO 12061 in the amount of 44,000 J. Chapinar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab?
Yes.
Sue Mayberry?
Yes.
Dan Booker?
Yes.
Eric Whittington?
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson?
Yes.
Purchase order number 12,063 to Muni Link in the amount of $12,000 for the new utility billing software and support.
Motion to approve PO 12063 to Muni Link in the amount of $12,000.
Second.
We have a motion by Sue Mayberry, seconded by Bonnie Donaldson. Any discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Purchase order number 12,064 to Corin, Maine LP in the amount of $78,403.56 for the new water meter equipment.
Motion to approve PO 12064 to Core and Main LP in the amount of $78,403.56.
Second.
We have a motion by Dan Booker Jr., seconded by Scott Schwab. Any discussion? Roll call?
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Eric Whittington. Dan Booker.
Yes.
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Purchase order number 12,077 to Civ Pro Engineering in the amount of $25,000 for the next phase of the GIS implementation system.
Motion to approve PO 12077, the amount of 25,000 to Civ Pro.
Second.
We have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Keith, how close will this bring, how many more steps are there to get us to the point where, you know, we're budgeting so much each year? Do we have an idea?
The data collected is probably 50–60% range, so once everything is finished collecting the data, then the model and the map can start being built off of that collected data, so.
Okay.
That's where a lot of the work's involved in actually creating the GIS mapping through the software. So we have to have the data collected first before. We also have started, as you know, scanning in maps and all that stuff, which will be part of that project.
So that'll just like, all that stuff will just overlay and we should be able to tell exactly where the water lines are, the sewer lines?
Yeah, not just location, but it's going to kind of be, there's going to be all the data associated with it, the size, the type, hydrant, valves, everything for the water, and then also the sanitary and storm sewer system will be modeled into that also. So.
Okay. Where do you see as like when we would be done with everything?
It's probably for the infrastructure. The majority of it probably a 2-year process.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yeah.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Eric Whittington. Purchase order number 12,066 to CTI Engineers, Inc. in the amount of $108,750 for the water tower design project.
Motion approved PO 12066 CTI, the amount of 108,750.
Second.
We have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Roll call?
I have a.
Oh, you have a question?
We have to do this,
To get the
To get the
plans to
grant?
submit for the grant.
that's
right.
what I thought, okay. Thank you.
All right, roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington. Purchase order number 12,067 to Civ Pro Engineering in the amount of $22,500 for their portion of the water tower project, water tower design project.
Motion to approve PO 12067 to Civ Pro Engineering in the amount of $22,500.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dan Booker Jr., seconded by Scott Schwab. Any discussion? Roll call?
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington. Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Purchase order number 12,060 to J.A. Chapman Excavating in the amount of $45,389 for the Ash Street water line repair.
Motion to approve PO 12060 to J. Jaffnar Excavating in the amount of $45,389.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dan Booker Jr., seconded by Scott Schwab. Any discussion?
Is this the one we were just talking about before, the gonna annex them? Is this
No,
the-
no, this is Ash Street, which is.
I know where Ash is.
Yep. Yeah, we're
Okay.
replacing that line.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Sue Mayberry.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Last but not least, purchase order 12,062 to Ohio Municipal Joint Self-Insurance Pool in the amount of 51,338 for the 2019 property and liability insurance renewal.
Motion to approve PO 12062 in the amount of $51,338 to Ohio Municipal Joint Self-Insurance Pool.
Second.
We have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion?
I had asked the, Bill about the, whether this is like 3-year proposal policy, and would suggest, this 51,000, how much is that for? Is that for a year or for
Yes.
3 years or what, for 1 year? And the reason I'm asking is, I am aware that a gentleman by the name of Rob Beglin has tried to get a hold of, well, he's got a hold of you finally, to try
I've
to,
talked to him several times.
come in here to propose going with the
Wells Fargo.
public,
Is he
no,
with Wells Fargo?
no, Public Entities Pool of Ohio. He works for USI Insurance Services. In 2017, the Public Entities Pool of Ohio was added to the Ohio Municipal League to its list of endorsing agencies. OML, because of a lack of response to claims and less than adequate service, it was bad enough that they severed a 22-year relationship with the Ohio Municipal Joint Self-Insurance Pool. The Village of Clinton changed to PEP a year ago. We got better insurance rates, cheaper rates, and we should be doing our due diligence to get the best rates possible for the liability and property insurance for this town. They will come in and they will assess the town. They will come in, I mean, we left somebody that we'd been with forever to go with these people. And these guys need to be heard, and all they needed was a section out of our policy of our locations, our buildings, our equipment, to give us a proposal. Right now, it's too late because it's up in April. We've got to do something by April 1st. I suggest we do this on a 1-year basis and entertain someone else between now and next April to look at our policy. And that's,
What's the savings? Is it pretty substantial?
for the Village of Clinton, it was substantial.
Yeah.
But the additional insured items that were not covered was like a no-brainer. So I just feel that we could be better stewards of our finances by looking at other places. And that's all I'm gonna say about that
No,
at
I
this
think
point.
we should, absolutely.
Well, it's too late now.
No, I'm saying for next, you're right, for the next year.
But instead of committing to 3 years, I say we commit to 1 year. And that's just my opinion.
Well, that's what this is for, is one.
Well,
Well,
I did,
This is the price for 1 year. I believe on the renewal packet, there's the option to essentially commit to 3 years, and then you basically lock in the price. So there would be no increase for 3 years if you commit to being in that third one.
How soon would we need to meet with them to get a quote?
it's
Just-
too late.
I'm talking for next year. I mean, when would we start? with
Well,
it?
it's up to administration on that. But he tried contacting the city back in November.
Sue, I've talked to him
I know.
4 times.
I know
Well,
you
so
have.
don't say he tried to contact me. I talked to him, and he basically is a salesman. And, so if you want me to start setting up meetings and let salesmen come to
Who was
council.
Clinton, who was Clinton with before?
Love Insurance?
We go through a local broker, and this guy's been poaching people and cutting prices, and
Who?
our insurance, our brokers do stuff in
I know that.
So they'll coach and then give you a base rate.
He offered to work with DeStefano.
And they turn around and then raise the rates on you later. So, but
Well,
I mean,
this gentleman didn't try to
we-
pull the wool over our eyes, so I'm just trying to
So I
do.
guess
We were paying a
I'm
lot higher
asking,
rates before we went to where we are now.
I'm asking council for direction, so when a salesman like this calls me and wants to come to a council meeting and present something,
He wanted to he just
No.
wanted to be able to ask to have a portion of he wanted a section out of our policy to go through and present us with a proposal.
he wanted to come to a council meeting. You understand that? That's what, he wanted to come to a council meeting. And I screened him, I said, what do you want to talk about? Insurance rates. At no point in time did he ever ask me for any documentation that
I believe that was done earlier in an email before you got involved.
okay. Okay. Well, I'm just-
I don't want to start an argument here.
Okay.
Well, I know
That's
the
all.
previous carrier I was involved with, we were paying 62,000, and that was over 10 years ago. With OML, we've saved, and I'm surprised it's gone down 51, because I think previous years they were 53 and 55. So, and Clinton is a little different, that we have water and sewer, we've got more manpower, we have more assets.
Oh,
So it's
I
based
know
on,
it's a bigger.
your
it's-
premium is based on your actual, how much your community is worth,
I just,
and your exposure liability.
We asked our
Clinton
broker to
doesn't have a police
research that.
department,
They came
you're
back-
insured, they don't have a fire department.
Just to finish the conversation, we did go to our broker and ask them to research, the alternative. They did all the research, they came back to us and said that we'd be better further ahead staying where we are. So that our insurance broker, we pay them and they know the insurance game, okay, better than I do as Americans, so. They can take good care of us, and plus they're local, and that's the recommendation they gave us. But, we can entertain a proposal, but then we'll have to have our broker explain to us the difference.
And Stefano did indicate that the actual rates they didn't go up at all this year. Now, our costs went up a little bit because we have the service building and some additional assets that we're now insuring, the fire engine. So our costs went up, but it was just because of acquiring more assets. The actual rate itself has stayed the same.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call?
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
And Sue Mabry.
Yes.
We can backtrack, we need to have a motion that we received the February financials from the finance director. Make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Discussion? Roll call?
Hold on 1 second. Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Sue Mabry.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington. Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
I included the February bill listing. They totaled $426,653.68.
I'll make that motion, we received the checks also.
Second.
We have a motion by Scott Schwab, seconded by Dan Booker Jr. Any discussion? Roll call?
Bonnie Donaldson.
Yes.
Scott Schwab.
Yes.
Dan Booker.
Yes.
Eric Whittington.
Yes.
Sue Mabry.
Yes.
All right, moving on to old, new, other business. I don't have anything.
How about Parks and Recreation? Or how about the water?
Oh, this
Yeah,
they did.
the law director, we wore him out. Parks and Rec,
Okay.
Didn't hear his voice, Steve?
and Parks and Rec was opening day on Canal Boat. All right. Mr. Booker, you have anything to report?
Nope.
Moving on to special, report of special committees. And then what you all been waiting for?
Well, I know it's been a long day.
No, change mine.
So I'm gonna give you an option. We can do this 2 weeks from now, or we can do this tonight.
Good.
We're here.
Good.
Tonight,
Yeah.
we're here. Okay,
Give
well,
state your name
I'll
and-
let you guys leave if you want to. I'm not gonna be offended if you want to go.
I'm waiting.
Okay.
We're waiting.
Unbelievable book.
So, yeah.
That was commissioned by you.
All right, go ahead, Donna, state your name.
Donna Matejko, 2001 Berg Drive. And as you know, I was here 4 weeks ago with my little backstory handout, my history handout. And I guess my first question should be, before I continue too far, what have we done? What have we moved forward with?
Basically nothing. Where I would tell you we're at, Donna, is, and the law director can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a pre-existing non-conforming use of that property. So there's not a whole lot we can do. I went back and talked to Jeff, and I met the new owners. So, you know, there will be new ownership, so I don't know if that will make a difference or not. So, but as far as where we're at, there's, you know.
Nothing you can do. Okay, well, I'm gonna prove to you you can.
Okay.
So, maybe while I'm passing this out, you can, maybe, I don't know if you can prove it to me tonight or not, but is there a certificate on file for his ongoing use of non-conforming use zoning?
I'm sorry?
Is there a certificate on file for his ongoing non-conforming use zoning?
What's a non-conforming use, slaughtering of animals, Joe?
As a slaughterhouse,
Okay.
basically.
Because the trucks running is legal in B2.
Okay,
So really the issue that's being complained about here is legal in B2 zone also.
the truck's running?
Yeah,
Okay, so,
yeah. I mean, that's what I was told.
and does anybody
Yeah.
else know what they
No.
You do? You do?
She's got plenty.
I got plenty.
Thank you.
So, so explain to me non-conforming use then. Non-conforming use is, they can do whatever they want.
My understanding, Donna, I'm not a lawyer or anything
Yeah, I'm
like that. I don't
just-
play
yeah.
one on TV.
Help me here.
Okay? Non-conforming use is where a business that would never be approved to exist, to get permission to start up. Okay? So, a junkyard, a slaughterhouse. So that's basically what, use those two things as an example. And that property at one time was a slaughterhouse. They slaughtered animals there. So that is a condition, that is a use that we would never permit within the city of Canal Fulton today. So that's non-conforming.
Okay, so your first page in your packet is zoning B1, which is general retail office district. This is actually what that entire strip plaza, he pays taxes on being zoned B1. It's on a Stark County, I know you're
Okay.
let me get there.
Okay, all right.
It's on a Stark County map that he's zoned B1. It's on this map that he's zoned B1. It's on every public record anywhere that I can possibly find that whole entire strip mall is zoned B1. Okay? So if you want to go and you want to talk about, your second page is zoning industrial use. So if we go on the premise that he's using his non-conforming clause because he was a slaughterhouse, you'll see in this that if you go at least 2 years without doing what you're granted non-conforming for, then you are no longer non-conforming. Okay?
And that's why you see the deer carcasses up there, because they process deer. They process when it's deer season.
Okay.
So that's why they have to do that every year in order to, just like our junkyard that's in town has to have at least one junk car sitting on it in order to maintain their non-conforming use status.
And the trucks, like you know, are not legal in B1, but they are legal in B2. So,
Okay, he's zoned B1.
he's on B1.
Yes. Okay.
So once again, that's a use that would be permitted
Okay.
even though you're seeing B1, that's the non-conforming portion of
Which
it.
takes me back to the certificate that's supposed to be on file, not only here with the city, but also with Stark County offices. Where has he applied for that every year to continue this?
It's gotta be renewed, correct?
Yes,
I don't
every
know.
year. Every year. Every year.
Does he slaughter the deer there? Or he
Process
just
is the process of it.
Is there a difference between processing and slaughtering? He processes beef up there, doesn't he?
I think they come in already.
In
with-
slab?
I
Half slab?
No, I think the difference is, Tim, and I'm speculating, I don't know, but I would say the fact that all they are is gutted when they come to you.
Sure.
You know, they have the heads on them, the hides,
But that's called processing, not slaughter.
I don't know.
Slaughtering means bringing in live animals and
Right.
housing them and then
Right.
killing them. Not, that's, you're talking about butchering, not
Yeah,
slaughtering,
Right.
okay? So I'll read a 1146.01 definition certificate of compliance. Means an official,
Where you at, Don, what page?
you're on page, I think it's 7. Certificate of compliance down in the second column on the bottom. Is a statement certifying that a building or other structure is in compliance with the provisions of all existing city codes. It is a lawful existence, non-conforming building or use, and hence may be applied and used lawfully for the purposes designated. And if you read this entire body of this, it also says that non-conforming clauses or non-conforming uses are temporary. Therefore, specifically set up for people who are in a position, in a business where there is no zoning, and then zoning comes into being, and they're given a temporary non-conforming use, but ultimately they are supposed to come forward to what the zoning laws and regulations of their municipality is. It's not supposed to go on for 70 years. It's just not. Okay? And you'll find that in here.
Where will you find that in?
I can show it to you afterwards, but I'm like worked up.
If I ever need a lawyer, can I just hire you?
I'm worked
If
up.
I ever get busted, I'm calling you.
Also, I'm going to show you on page 9. We're going to go to noise ordinance. Noise making and noise amplifying, we've all read this a million times. I have at least. And we all know that we can't have the police do anything about it because it doesn't pertain to this specifically. But if you go down to C, the city manager or his or her designated representative shall have the authority consistent with this section to grant special variances. That's where you come in, I would say on that. Truck loading zones on the next page.
Well, wait a second, when you say the city manager or his designated, her designated representative
you-
shall have the authority
Yes.
consistent with this section to grant special variance, does that mean granting a variance to allow the noise or to
You
prohibit the
can
noise?
grant a variance to prohibit it if you want to.
Yeah, it says against the adverse impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the persons affected.
Okay. So next page, nuisance, noise making and noise amplifying. Obviously, he's not playing radios up there. I get that. So that's where you come in, the city manager. Okay? Truck loading zones, the next page, chapter 351.09. Canal Fulton codified ordinances. No person shall stop, stand, or park a vehicle for any purpose or length of time other than for the expeditious unloading and delivery or pickup and loading of materials in any place marked as a truck loading zone during hours when the provisions applicable in such zones are in effect. In no case shall the stop for loading and unloading of materials exceed 30 minutes.
Oops.
Whoever violates this section is guilty of a minor misdemeanor and first offense. Second offense,
I think this is in the right of way.
well, it's a loading zone, and I'm not to that yet. So, and when you get to loading and unloading zones, every business has to provide for loading and unloading zones. Those zones cannot be parked in. They cannot be parking spaces. They have to specifically be used for loading and unloading of materials, coming and going. Which brings me back to this, you have 30 minutes to do it.
So we'd have to shut down all the businesses downtown.
Okay, which brings me to kind of my summation. to be very honest with you. My oncologist asked me, do you have any predisposition to female cancers in your family? No, none. What diesel fuel running produces nitrous oxide, which creates hormone receptor positive cancers in women, okay? It increases the odds by 10%. I had hormone receptor positive breast cancer in 2011, 8 years after moving into this property. The person that lived directly next door to me, Bob, lived there and couldn't take the noise, moved out 7 years after he moved in there, died 2 years later of cancer. Mrs. Neri in the cul-de-sac now has lung cancer. The lady across the street from me died of cancer. So you're talking about 6 people that live in a cul-de-sac, 4 of which have all had cancer. I don't know if that's a coincidence. I probably can't prove it. Nobody can probably prove it, but it seems a little fishy to me. I'm going to read a little bit. Like I said, every record on file indicates that this is Zone B1. How was I supposed to know as a layperson? I'm going to tell you I would have never moved into that house if I had any small, slight inkling that there was going to be industrial activity up there. Who would? And now how do I sell that house? Seriously. I'm going to have to tell whoever moves in there, you got a problem on the hill. You got noise. You got stench when it's 90 degrees up there and they don't empty that dumpster. And even if they do empty that dumpster every other day or every third day, the stink doesn't go away. It just doesn't. And so when I come down here and I see that it's zoned B1 or B2, I felt comfortable moving into that house. So what do I do now? So I've got a whole city telling me, too bad, we're going to allow this guy for the last 60 or 70 years to do whatever he's been doing, even though there's progress going on. I mean, they put barriers up on the highways, for God's sakes, because of the noise. You know? I don't know. I'm getting very sidetracked. But what I want from the city is I want you guys to read this. I want you guys to read this, and I want you to tell me what you see and what you learned. Maybe I'm reading it all wrong. I don't think I am. And I want some sort of, in writing something. I want it in writing, sent to me, emailed to me, what you guys plan to do about the issue. Because it is an issue. A big issue. And it's not just an issue for me. It's an issue for the whole city. You know, you guys want to keep growing and keep getting bigger. It's going to bring more commerce into the city, and there's just trucks sitting everywhere. It's not just in my backyard. They're everywhere. So, within 30 days, I'd like to have, probably going to come from you, something saying what your plan is to move forward.
Have you been to the planning commission yet on this? You talked to the actual zoning official?
I did.
Okay.
And you know what Steve said to me? This is unheard of. I have been a zoning person in zoning for a long.
Well, that's who has to recommend to us anyway,
Okay.
really, the zoning official.
Okay, well, but when
he
I
works for you, Mr. Cozy.
Yeah.
But when I come in
Planning
here,
commission, you know, so what happens is we meet here and I go back to planning, I talk to the workmen, and it's just back and forth, and we need to actually sit down with the planning commission.
Can I ask a question before we go off this?
Yeah.
You took this out of our code, right? This is our law now.
Yeah.
Councils before us created this.
Correct.
This is in effect.
Correct.
This is out of our hands. They're to be enforced by city manager. How he goes about doing it, that's his job. It's not my job to tell you how we're going to enforce what's in our code. That's all I'm going to say.
So whose job is it to tell us how we're gonna move forward?
Who should I be talking to?
City manager.
Well, I'm saying we need to go to the planning commission. Because we need to confirm the you know, the pre-existing use, non-conforming use. We can confirm all that.
I mean, the fact that they don't even have a certificate on file that they're supposed to file every year and automatically negates them from having a non-conforming use. Period. And then the other fact of the non-conforming use, the fact that they stopped slaughtering to me, I mean, we need to split hairs now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is bringing in the live animals and housing them and feeding them and slaughtering them.
You're correct.
You're right.
And you hear.
But that's, I don't think that's just the only thing, Donna. I think
It's the trucks that are.
it's just the whole entire business where their hours wouldn't be set like other businesses set their hours in that.
That doesn't.
But if he was,
The business was open? It's not.
No, and that's,
right.
but that's what I'm saying
It's
is
not.
pre-existing non-conforming use means that he can open and close. He never really closes because
He can do whatever he wants.
And
he has been
24
doing that
hours a day.
since 1968.
Yeah, 24 hours a day.
24 hours, even if he's not there.
He can, but he doesn't.
So,
Say that again.
He can unload those trucks at midnight if he wants to,
Right.
but he does not.
Yeah, and that's my understanding is they can just leave them parked there.
So the ordinance in here that says you cannot sit, stand, or stay still with a running vehicle without loading expeditiously or unloading, it doesn't apply to him. None of your laws or regulations apply to this man.
That's my.
That's in the vehicle code, right? I mean, that's.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay?
So you call the police department.
Okay, no, wait.
See, the thing is, that where,
Okay,
is this in the right of way or is this on private property?
It's in a loading and unloading zone,
Okay.
which is in your ordinances.
Is it, yeah, but I don't have the full ordinance here, I have bits and pieces.
So Donna,
if
Is it my job to look up every one of your ordinances?
You brought it to me, I'm asking, is this in the right of way or is this on private property?
It's on a business
Okay.
that is,
True.
you know, you guys,
I mean, I have to go back to the overall code and look at it and see if this pertains to private property or public right of way.
that would be great. So maybe in 30 days you can give me some
Was
answers.
this written for, a business downtown where you have a truck coming and?
I would assume that when you do zoning laws and ordinances and regulations, it's a blanket, It doesn't cover this business is different than this business.
Oh, no,
because-
there's a difference when somebody's using the street for loading and unloading,
They're not
as opposed to
using
their own property. Yeah, but I don't know.
Down in downtown they are all the
I'm
time.
looking at,
When I'm
I'm
driving
looking here and
down
trying to
Canal
determine
Street,
whether
truck walking, they
that's
get
what it
in
is.
there,
I can't, I have to look at the entire code.
Oh, that's, I walked.
So Donna, I guess my question too would be, like when they say, when you read 30 minutes in there, they can't be left running. So if they turn the key off and then they turn it back on, does the clock start again?
No, they also have to be expeditiously loaded and unloaded. It's in your ordinances.
And that's where the non-conforming part of it, in my mind, is they can sit there until they open up and someone's there to unload them. But if that's not the case, then we'll find out. But
Well, if they don't file a report or a permit every year,
Right.
all that's a moot point.
It is a moot point.
So that needs to be, if they don't have a permit, none of that can happen.
And when I did call and ask for a permit, this is also part of your ordinances. When I did call and ask for a permit, nobody knew what I was speaking about. Plus, no one got into the proper channels and contacted someone that did know what I was talking about, and no one got back to me. That's also in your ordinances that has to be.
Who'd you speak with? Was that a city or was that with the county?
That was here.
Okay.
And I think every time we bring this up, we just hear, oh, he's non-conforming. Now I hear you say, we'll find out. I think that's all we've been asking for since day one.
Yeah.
Would you please find out?
I guess when four weeks ago when I was here and I said, I gave you all this, that just fell on deaf ears. Really?
I don't, Donna, we can only go by the law director's recommendation. So when he tells us what pre-existing non-conforming is, until we see something different, then, I'm not an attorney, and like I said, we'll keep checking into it. But we'll get something to you, right?
That would be fantastic. Thank you guys for listening.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, before we end this, you said that they have new owners now?
Yep.
As of when?
This week.
And so then my other question would be, if they have new owners this week, their grandfathered, non-conforming crap
That's
is
what I
gonna
asked.
go on with this.
That's what I asked on it, and that's, you know, what I believe is when you buy the business, as long as you meet the conditions of the non-conforming use, because, you know, that's what we were
If the permit
told.
wasn't there, none of that's in place, it's
Right.
specifically non-conforming. So they have to
Yeah.
abide by
But-
it, and I think that's what we need to find out for sure.
Yeah, it's all about that permit.
Yeah,
You know.
and what I'd like to see, the permits, I'd like to see them back from 1972.
Yeah.
I'd like to see every year from 1972. I'm sure you have
Make
those
a
on,
public records request.
I'm sure you have those on file.
Can we do that with,
Make a public records request.
to who? The council? We're making a
No.
public record
Me.
request.
Go to city manager, make a
You?
public records
Okay.
request.
Thank you.
It's you and me, Cozy.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
It's you and me, Cozy.
All right. Yeah, but she's fair.
I have one thing I'd like to bring up. I'm Jim Hoy, 525 Erickson Drive.
So what's your request? I'll write it down.
I want every year since they've been non-conforming or grandfathered in, I
We'll
want
pull the entire file.
a certificate for every year. Because if they missed 1 year, then they lost their non-conforming.
And that's where, you know, you and I can sit here and say that, but you're gonna get lawyers involved and you may hear different arguments, but we'll find out. Go ahead, Tim.
I'm going to direct this to Chief Schwartz here. Back on the February 17th, and I think I brought this up the last time, there was a refrigerator unit running on a truck. It was a Canal Fulton provision truck, doors open, nothing in it, running. Officer Yarnell came up and he said he was gonna poke around, see if something, obviously there's somebody here. No, nobody was there. So, some days later, it happened again. I was out plowing snow, spreading salt, and I come home and there it was, another one running. I went up, I saw it running, but I didn't call it in because I was out most of the night and I just wanted to go home. That prompted me to think, well, I wonder what they did about that. I'm sure that an officer or somebody from the city must have went up and said, you know, to the Mazarics, is there a reason for that? Is there a reason you're running an open refrigerator unit for apparently no reason? That's what happened? Somebody did go up there and speak to the Missouri?
I went up, and I've been up a couple times.
Okay.
Okay, and what he told me was that one day a week that they deliver, and I don't know the specifics, but they deliver one day a week to businesses in Cleveland. So the truck has to be plugged in and running so that it's ready to go.
With the doors hanging open?
The truck was not running, it was a refrigerator unit.
Right, so I don't know what it is, but that's what the explanation I got was, that it was because of an early delivery. So,
The doors
so when,
hanging open.
I don't know, Don. I asked a question, I got an
Yeah,
answer,
yeah, I get it.
okay?
I
And
get it.
I don't know the business
Yeah.
to know that, but,
Yeah.
and that's my question to Tim is like, do you think it was like a 1 week? Because that's what he told me, is like, one day a week they deliver in Cleveland.
It's possible, but
Yeah.
okay, but you're telling me the refrigerator needs to be, what, frozen so that
I
when they
don't know,
look?
I don't know, Tim. You just asked.
Am I supposed to go up and ask these questions?
I asked.
Is that okay if I go up and ask these questions?
No, I
mean, it might get ugly,
I mean,
I'm just
it's-
saying.
no,
Right.
You want me to do that? or-
It's
I don't,
lunacy.
and I wouldn't recommend that,
That's what it
Tim.
is.
You know,
I don't either.
Right, so,
But I guess I'd like somebody to, you know, tell us why that has to happen.
well, I'm giving you the explanation that I got. So
And
one
I'm
day.
supposed to be happy with it?
I'm just,
No, you're just giving me the explanation.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
all right.
So if it happens again, I can just call the police up there?
Call the police.
And they'll follow up. They'll go up the next day and say, why did you do this? Is it necessary?
Somebody will. One of us will. So,
Okay.
so
And you'll put that all in writing for me, what you did or what you didn't do, or?
With this is like, this isn't a police report that he filed. Basically, he went out, made contact with the dispatchers, and then cleared, and then didn't do a report. This is a self-generated thing that.
The problem
It's a formality.
is
you want to have it.
No, you can have it.
the problem is the city's not backing you up to be able to go out there and tell them to stop it.
And I think the root of this, what you provided with the language, if that's true, that's something that we could look at and see if that gives us more of a leg to stand on when we're dealing with it. So I think we need to investigate what you gave us and see if it applies to the situation.
That's all I ask.
Yeah.
And Donna, the other proposal I gave him was, if the trucks, if he put up a sign for the trucks that said, don't go beyond this point unless we're open for business. And, I think I called you back with, this touching base on that, but I don't know if that's an amicable solution. Would it make sense to you? Like they pull in the front parking lot?
Well, okay, to be honest with you, it personally makes sense to me, but what about the people across the street?
Well,
And what about the long-going complication of having trucks sit all over the city?
Yeah.
I mean, it's bigger than just me.
It is, Donna, it's way bigger, and that's an issue that the city has to look at, because you're talking about shutting down businesses. If you can't park trucks downtown here and deliver to a very small area, Mr. Whittington's one of them, parking is very limited downtown, so we get cars and trucks pulled up on the sidewalk.
Less than 30 minutes. They're not saying you can't park there.
They're parked there overnight? They're parked there running overnight?
No, I'm not saying that.
Exactly.
But I'm hearing you say that they can't be parked there for
12 hours, 14 hours.
for 30 minutes, more than 30 minutes.
And I'm flexible. Okay, so if I saw some sort of movement, somebody was gonna try to help me out. Me and Mr. Cozy are gonna work this out. I'm not gonna go run around town and say, oh, you've been here for 29 minutes and 17 seconds. Your time's about up. That's lunacy.
You would be the meter lady.
If you wanna put me in that position, I'll do it right. I'll guarantee you that.
Revenue.
But that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I would like to have some sort of something.
Okay.
A little give and take would be nice.
All right, any more questions from council?
I have one question about that.
You've been so patient. Go ahead.
Who are you?
Mike Tenero, 2028 Bird Drive. If everything's saying that he's B1, now I'm just a stupid plumber, so I don't know. But I'd have to assume you're going to pay more tax if you're industrial versus B1.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. More taxes.
I don't think the auditor looks at it that way, Mike. I think the auditor looks at it as a B1 because that wouldn't require them to go back
Based
through
on
pre.
property valuation.
Yeah. But I wouldn't think they dig that deep to say, oh, well, this has a pre-existing non-conforming use.
I just scared.
Yeah, that's not a stupid question. All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, right, yeah.